Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, regular closed session meeting of the East Bay MUD Board of Directors. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Second.
Present.
Director Gomez,
Present.
Director Katz,
Present.
Director Lenny,
Here.
Director Patterson.
Here.
Director Young,
Here.
President McIntosh.
Here. Do we have any speaker cards for public comment?
No speakers online, no comments in
All
person.
right. Well, then, that makes life a lot easier. So the board will now convene to Conference Room 8 to discuss closed session agenda items 1 through 4, and we're scheduled to return here for the regular meeting at 1:15. All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, regular business meeting of the East Bay MUD Board of Directors. We will receive reports from this morning's Finance, Administration, and Sustainability Committee meetings under item 15. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Director Chan,
Present.
Director Gomez,
Here.
Director Katz,
Present.
Director Lenny,
Here.
Director Patterson,
Here.
Director Young,
Here.
President McIntosh.
Here. And before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, Director Lenny has an important meeting this afternoon, and he is excused. He'll leave in about 20 minutes from now.
Great.
All right, join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now recognize East Bay MUD Service Award recipients for the period July through September 2024.
Yes, thank you, President McIntosh. We have Siobhan Tuvo here, our Senior Human Resources Analyst, that will share the presentation with you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. As you're probably aware, the East Bay MUD Employee Recognition and Appreciation Program has four main elements, which is our peer recognition program, local celebration, our Employee Recognition Month, which is September, and our Longevity Service Awards. Today, we'll be recognizing our employees' longevity and service awards. The service awards are given for every 5 years, milestone years, and include a district pin, certificate, and gift. Employees reaching 20 years of service receive the wooden water drop. Retirees may choose to receive a belt buckle or the buckle emblem placed on a vase. Retirees with 24 or more years of service may choose to receive a wooden plaque. The first person that we would like to recognize is Milagros Landicho, who I believe is with us on Zoom, and she has 40 years of service. Which is amazing.
Milagro, I am trying to promote you to panelist, so if you can accept. Okay.
Wow, that's wonderful.
So it looks like Milagro's dropped out of the meeting.
Uh-oh, okay, well, if she
Yes.
pops in. Next, we'll recognize 35 years of service with Vincent Johnson. And then for 30 years of service, Stephen Donovan, Vincent Pon, Raul Ruiz, and Chun Shum. And I believe Chun is with us today. So if you don't mind standing up, 35 years of service. Thank you. So we have some photographs of some of our award recipients there. This is Brian Nath, Human Resources Analyst 2. And also we have Paul Ruiz, also with 30 years, but his name's coming up next. So for 25-year of service recipients, James Allen, Eric Carl, and Lisa Chan, and Lisa is pictured there on the right. Our 20-year service recipients are Jessica Allard, Rick Hugh, Dennis Carriam, John Keeler, Dennis Nisley, Sean O'Malley, Kenneth Redwine, Arnold Rubio. Sorry. Juan Serrano, Rebecca Sharp, Mario Soares, and Victor Wagner, all with 20 years of service.
What about Joshua?
Oh, I'm sorry if I missed that one, sorry. Thank you. Joshua Sullivan, my apologies. Sorry. And we have Jessica Allard and Kenneth Redwine in the photos as well. All right. Also photographed for 20 years of service are Mario Soares, Sean O'Malley, Juan Serrano, and John Sullivan on the left, as well as Victor Wagner on the right. All right. For our 15 years of service recipients, we have Peter Anderson, Daniel Hill, Chandra Johannesson, and Tracy King. And Chandra is photographed there on the right as well. And we have some of our tenure recipients here with us today. Jack Alexson, if you don't mind standing up, Jack. Yay. Manuel Alvarez, Adam Baru, Brett Bergmark, Jolene Bertetto, John Garcia, Jesse Green, Curtis Hayden, Ross Hoyt, and we also have Adam Kern, Nancy Lee, Christopher McDougall, Tracy Morales, Jeffrey Mount, Brian Nath, Christopher Ortiz, and Danny Pham, who's with us here today. Also, Matthew Stimson. Oh, Tracy? Oh, sorry. Tracy Morales. Stand. Sorry. In addition to those names, we also have, Matthew Stimson, Richard Thomas, Bernita Toney, and Benjamin Townley. And featured in the photographs, we also have Nancy Lee, whose photograph is up, and we also have photographs from Christopher Ortiz and Danny as well. And our last 10-year of service person who is photographed is Bernita Toney. So, all right, and then we have our 5 years of service recipients. Up next, Jonathan Briggs, Keith Butler, Emmett Cadigan, who is with us today. Hi, Emmett. Congratulations. David Callahan, Hawkow, Tammy Coleman, Justin Conley, Jason Canopa, Jason Denny, Dominic Giovanetti, bless you, Charles Green, Keith Gutto, Russell Hall, Brett Emel, Victoria Jenner, Talabdeen Jihad, Kevin Jim, who's with us today. Thanks, Kevin. John Kellett, Michelle Leon, David McDonald, James McCarthy, Lauren McQuiston, Kenneth Miller, Andrew Modar, Robert Moore, Adam Morgheim, Victoria Nguyen, Daniel Perillo, Donald Pluth, Ray Ramirez, Timothy Schluchter, Justin Simmons, Christopher Tran, Antonio Villarreal, Michael Wooden, Benjamin Yang Johnson, and Deanna Zambrano Vasquez. And some of our folks that are featured in the photographs there, we have Emmett, who was just standing with us, Charles Green, Kevin Jim, and we have Kenneth Miller featured in that photograph, and Victoria Nguyen. So that is everyone. Did everyone get a chance to stand that was being recognized? All right. That is everyone at this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for your dedication to East Bay Mud. Thank you for your service, and we enjoy having you. Keep it up. All right, that moves us. We will continue with presentations for 3 awards. The Sustainable Contra Costa 2024 Leadership and Sustainability Award, and 2 awards from the American Society of Civil Engineers, San Francisco section, for the San Pablo Reservoir Hypolimnetic Oxygenation System. It's a mouthful. Clifford?
Yes, we'll start with the Leadership Award. So I'm pleased to announce Kristen Bowman, Water Conservation Representative, is a recipient of Sustainable Contra Costa's 2024 Leadership and Sustainability Award. Kristen has been leading the district's Landscape Advisory Committee, a key stakeholder group of industry professionals with the latest conservation practices, and organizing forums, workshops, and webinars on water conservation. Kristen's work in our community includes supporting water-saving demonstration and community gardens, promoting biodiversity, and educating visitors about sustainable garden best practices. She works with many of our large landscape customers, helping them transform their lawns into gardens with an emphasis on community engagement and placemaking, which includes partnerships centering on the neighborhood's needs and creating spaces that help the community thrive. Each year, Sustainable Contra Costa honors the sustainability heroes in the community. This year, Kristen Bowman has been selected as one of those heroes. Congratulations to Kristen on representing the district at the forefront of our water conservation efforts. And Kristen Bowman is here to receive the award today, and Director Katz will present the award.
Thank you for representing the district with excellence on sustainability. We have this certificate of special congressional recognition from Congressmember Mark DeSaulnier, as well as from Supervisor Candace Anderson. Thank you for your service to the district. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Kristen. Next, the district received the 2024 Outstanding Water Project of the Year and Outstanding Environmental Engineering Project of the Year awards from the American Society of Civil Engineers. The awards are for the district's San Pablo Reservoir Hypolimnetic Oxygenation System, or HOS. The HOS system efficiently introduces oxygen into the reservoir bottom, or the hypolimnion, and is a cost-effective method to reduce taste and odor events. The project also improves aesthetics and habitat for fish and wildlife that reside in and around San Pablo Reservoir. These awards acknowledge the district's ability to overcome highly technical challenges, including underwater construction, differing site conditions, major supply chain disruptions, and a global pandemic. Despite these obstacles, the team was able to construct high-quality and beneficial infrastructure that will benefit both people and the wildlife. These awards also recognize the district's ability to innovate in its construction projects. The San Pablo Reservoir HOS features a novel use of underwater tension anchors with a frame system to support the equipment. Monitoring of the system's performance has already shown increased oxygen concentrations throughout the full length of the reservoir bottom after less than 2 months of operation. The project team included district staff, design consultant Brown and Caldwell, construction contractor Mountain Cascade, and diving subcontractor Underwater Resources. The contractors and consultants work hand in hand with the district's construction design and commissioning team and the operations and maintenance staff, which led to the project success. District employees from multiple departments contributed to this project, and some of them are here today to represent the entire team. And we have Jack Alexson, Senior Construction Inspector, Valentine Bell, Senior Construction Inspector, Chloe Chook, Associate Civil Engineer, Mike Hartlob, Senior Civil Engineer, Elaine Horn, Assistant Engineer, Joe Casera, Assistant Engineer, Mario Martinez, Associate Civil Engineer, Javier Prospero, Senior Civil Engineer, and Justin Young, Associate Electrical Engineer. Please join me in congratulating the team for their outstanding achievement. Yes.
I just want to thank all of you for your participation in this project. I was out on a hike on the reservoir and saw it while it was under construction. Heard about the divers going down, and just a great project and a great way to sustain the reservoir for habitat and water quality. So I don't know who wants to. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't fish. A paddle, but not on that reservoir. Thank you.
Marguerite doesn't fish, but I do.
I didn't know that.
I love fishing. All right, that moves us to announcements from closed session, and there are none. Thank you all very much. Public comment, I don't have any cards for public comment.
And we have no hands online for public comment at this time.
Ooh,
Mark that down.
I know, I don't want to say amen. All right, so that moves us on to the consent calendar. To consider items 1 through 10.
I'll move
All right, are you moving items 1 through 10,
1 through
Marguerite?
10, unless somebody
All
says they're
right,
pulling something.
we have a motion by Director Young and a second by Vice President Patterson to move the consent calendar. Any questions, comments for staff? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you all. That moves us on to discussion. Determination and discussion, item number 11. And that's to authorize an amendment to the agreement for employment of the general manager, Clifford C. Chan, to add an indemnification provision effective October 22nd, 2024. Are there any questions? Comments? All right.
move the item.
We have a motion by Vice President Patterson and a second by Director Gomez. If there's nothing further, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That moves us to item 12. Appoint an ad hoc committee comprised of members of the Board of Directors to advise staff on selecting a facilitator and developing an agenda for a board retreat in 2025.
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the last board meeting very briefly, we will have at least 3 new board members joining the board next year. And to support the board, and especially the new board members, I do think it will be helpful to have a board retreat early next year. And I'm recommending that the retreat be led by an outside facilitator. Again, the ad hoc committee would advise on the selection of a facilitator and assist with development of the agenda for the retreat. If the board agrees with this proposal, Risha will work with the ad hoc committee members to schedule meeting our goals probably within the next couple of weeks.
Do we have any volunteers?
I will.
All right. I love it.
Lose.
Yeah.
April and myself.
Okay, all right. We've got Director Gomez, we've got Director Chan, we've got Director Young. Sufficient, Clifford?
That's sufficient.
All right. Short and sweet. Nothing further on that item, correct? Oh, guess that would help. All right. Bill?
A second.
Okay. Bill, Vice President Patterson is the maker of the motion, and then April is the second. All right? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Okay, moving right along. At the Finance Administration Committee this morning, we discussed the draft board governance manual and policies. The draft manual is in your packet, and that the edits and the comments are based on the feedback that we did receive from some of the board members. I know Director Chen has some additional comments that she wants to share this afternoon. I'll just note that we didn't receive any comments on the proposed new policy or the 2 updated policies. We are seeking your feedback today on the documents. There are 3 items that we'll share with you that we have for board discussion, but the committee this morning did agree on the proposed changes, but we'll discuss those as well. And I'll pass this on to Derek.
Good afternoon. So I'd like to briefly go over the background of how we got here today. Have the next slide, please, Risha. So at the board's request for governance documents that arose at the board's retreat in November 2023, staff drafted 10 governance policies. 8 of those policies were new, and 2 were revisions to the ethics policy and to the board member reimbursement policy. Those draft policies were presented at various board and committee meetings, during which we received direct feedback from the board and committee members. We also received comments individually in writing and orally from board members, and also the internal audit supervisor reviewed the draft policies. Next slide, please. So based on the feedback we received at the August 20th Special Finance Admin Committee meeting, we converted 7 of the draft policies into a governance manual with the idea that the manual would be less prescriptive and allow for more detail and flexibility. Next slide, please. That draft manual was presented to the Finance Admin Committee on September 24th. And the committee was asked to support a timeline under which we would receive comments from board members by October 8th, incorporate those comments into the draft manual, and present them to the Finance Admin Committee on October 22nd for recommendation to the full board. Next slide. So we did receive comments in writing from several board members. We have put those comments pretty much verbatim in red line on the draft document itself that was included in your packet. We made revisions to the text itself in response to those comments. And so our current goal, I know our initial timeline was to have board approval of the manual today, but our current goal is to receive further feedback from the board and incorporate final edits to the board for consideration on November 12th. Next slide. So we did present the comments and edits made to the Finance Admin Committee meeting this morning. And I will say that most of the comments requested, they either suggested edits or requested clarifications from the existing text. And so you'll see a lot of red lines in the draft that are in response to those comments that do make clarifications or even line-by-line edits. However, there were three comments that really gave rise to policy considerations for the board. The first comment was whether or not the manual should incorporate a past presidential directive requiring board members to report communications with elected officials and their staff in the manual itself. I will note that that 2017 presidential directive also required board members to report conversations they'd had with public officials, developers, consultants, vendors, or others which relate to matters under board consideration on the agenda, and also any public statements or presentation board members have given outside a meeting concerning items to be addressed or discussed on the agenda. So that was discussed at committee this morning. The committee essentially decided that the policy was somewhat unworkable, and the recommendation, as we understood it, was to keep the language in the ethics policy, which has not been changed, and it was adopted by the board, and that requires the board to discuss certain or identify ex parte communications that they've had with individuals regarding matters before the board in a quasi-judicial or adjudicative proceeding, which are pretty rare. So that was the first key comment that was discussed this morning. Also discussed this morning was the last two bullet points go hand in hand. Whether or not onboarding and training for new board members should be required as a matter of policy, and what consequences, if any, should there be for failure to complete onboarding and training. And so currently, the draft manual does list the planned onboarding for new board members. It also includes two statutorily required ongoing training requirements for board members. And in section 9.04, based on feedback that we had received from board members, we included language that board members who failed to complete the onboarding process and required training may, and the word used is may, be ineligible to serve as a board officer or in other board officer positions, including on the boards of joint power authorities or the retirement board. They may be ineligible for approval of travel on behalf of East Bay MUD or reimbursement of travel expenses, or they may have information posted at the EBMUD website identifying any incomplete training required by law until the required training is complete. So those two bullets were discussed this morning's committee meeting, and my understanding of the recommendation was that the onboarding be required, the onboarding and the onboarding activities be required, the statutorily required training, that's not really an option, and that the word may be left in the paragraph for consequences for not completing training to allow the president flexibility to determine when board members need to be incentivized to complete their training. And that is in recognition of the fact that there are many new board members that will probably come on starting in January, and they may need, it may take some time to schedule their training. So I hope I've summarized this morning's discussion correctly, and with that, I will open it up for discussion.
Marguerite?
Yeah, appreciate all of the inclusion of comments. There's one item that I had commented on in section 4.05 related to relationships with union representatives, where my comment was misinterpreted because of the use of the word board. And what I had, the language that you added is fine, which is that, but I wanted to make sure that there was language that said that board members, East Bay MUD board members, should not take individual perspectives or opinions offered by union members as positions or policy of the union unless expressly, communicated that way. Right, so that you know, yeah. However, that wasn't very elegantly stated, but I'm sure you'll come up with
I understood it, and
language
yes,
that-
we will make that change.
All right.
And I think I'm fine with everything else that you all discussed this
Director
morning.
Gomez.
Yeah, I also want to echo the appreciation for staff being able to put together this draft and incorporating the comments from so many of us. I think it looks good. I appreciated this morning's discussion. I was able to listen in. It was interesting, the discussion having to do with reporting communications with elected officials. Did the committee end up recommending that it would only apply to certain types of decisions, correct?
Yes, one of the guiding approaches for putting this very comprehensive document together is to defer questions of changing major policy and for the new board to understand their role and make their own decisions about what they would like to do going forward. Our purpose for this document is to take the things that are currently our procedures, our practices, and help put that in writing. So what we recommended was to take the existing ex parte communication disclosures in the existing ethics policy, which are specifics to competitive bidding, and to quasi judicial decisions. And
I do have, I mean, you called it a presidential directive. I don't remember what it was or how it happened. I mean, I remember exactly how it happened and what it was about. And I find it ironic that I'm encouraging that we follow it. I don't have strong feelings about it either way, but the idea is that if you're talking to a member of the legislature or their staff about legislation that's pending, that we have an interest in or may not have taken a position on, that it be communicated in some way, which seems reasonable to me. Requiring it as a matter of conduct or policy, et cetera, may be going, too far. I mean, basically, I had a conversation with an author about a bill that was important to me individually, and to find out what was going on with it and et cetera, and what it would take to get over the finish line. I don't think I mentioned it. It somehow got back to one of our other board members that conversation had happened. And, as a result, it was like, well, we should be disclosing all of that. I don't disagree that it's not a bad idea to say you had that contact. But I feel fine about leaving it at matters that are covered by the ethics policy.
I think that we really need to trust each other in this and be able to trust each other to judge what's appropriate to disclose and what's not appropriate to disclose. I'm very strongly against this because I know if it gets out that this is our policy, elected officials are not going to be speaking to me about anything. And so this, I think, would be very damaging in terms of the work that I need to do to be a representative in my ward.
Okay. I get your opinion, Marguerite.
I'm not suggesting that we change what the committee did this morning. I'm just adding some context to what it wasn't about communicating with, city man. It was actually related to state legislators and matters of legislation, which is different than.
And April, is
I was part of that committee discussion, and so I agree with what Andy said. I mean, there was consensus between the three of us how to move forward on this.
All right, okay.
And I think this sounds like the norms of this sounds like a good way of introducing it at the workshop, the board's workshop, because it does seem like that's a working discussion of, how do we collaborate, how do we work together, and getting those norms among the group, I think will be, that does seem important to get a common understanding of in a situational context, so
Yeah,
that
what's
people can talk
beneficial.
it through. But it's unworkable to make it a board handbook level
Yeah,
policy
exactly.
in our view.
All right, so this is just a review. It's comments and provide direction to staff on further revisions and a timeline. Did you guys cover that this morning?
We did, yes, and I don't know if Director Chan, you want to share your additional comments, but if, we want to incorporate all the comments and get all the feedback today, so we can bring it back on the 12th and get this finalized.
I think my main concern coming here, going to the planning meeting, was I really wanted to get feedback from Director Katz, Director Patterson, about my thoughts, and I already did that. And the remaining changes, I think, maybe can be discussed with me and General Counsel. And the last thing I'll throw out is the attendance policy. I'm not sure that that's something that really we should decide for a new board. I don't know who's gonna be here, I don't know what their other obligations are, even if this is a norm. I mean, I've never heard of an attendance policy for board members, but if maybe you could present some information about what other organizations are doing in terms of that, I think it'd be helpful. And that's the totality of my comments,
let's
everything.
discuss
Everything.
that.
Yeah,
Let's
and
discuss
because
that.
I think for a board such as the East Bay Mud Board of Directors, and we work for the public, I think an attendance policy is necessary.
Well,
This
And
is,
I mean, I just believe it's necessary and I believe it's reasonable. And I see no, I mean, what would prevent somebody from just taking off, a meeting a month?
I mean,
Instead of sitting here working like the rest of us. So I just think it's very important.
look,
to have
I'm
a
not saying
policy.
there should be no attendance policy. I'm just saying that I think that's a matter for a future board.
So
to
this has
decide.
been a
Well, I-
long-standing
that's-
policy of
yeah.
this board, going back decades. And actually,
I was never told that. So that's new
it's
information.
very clearly stated in the materials. Both our lateness policy and the attendance policy have been very clearly stated, going back. It's not like it's been created out of whole cloth when this was drafted. This has been and it was put in place because we did have a board member who didn't show up for months.
Okay,
And
well, I'm just telling
so
you my
it-
opinion. It's fine. I
Yeah.
mean,
So,
But it's not a new board's decision. Some of these things, you don't change, I mean, the whole point of having this is not to change it up every time new people show up.
we don't. But
And we
we are
haven't because
talking,
we've had a board in
maintain
place
some
for 20
stability.
years.
I think we are talking about a very large change in the board and, and they should be part of decision-making too. And,
well, if it's that important to them, they can take it up. But I think it's necessary that there be.
This is our policy. This is our policy and has been our
Yeah,
policy.
my reading of section 1301 is that it doesn't set new policy, it summarizes what we currently do.
I remember reading some of the, okay. I mean, I'm definitely not gonna argue the point, I don't feel that strongly about it. I'm just saying that, for a departing board to make a lot of rules about what's gonna happen after they leave, I'm not sure that's fair. But if people feel strongly about it, it's fine.
We're not making rules. These rules are in place. These rules are in place, have been in place since I've been on the board.
I never saw the three absences. That's specifically what I've never seen. And I've never seen the part about conferences not being part of working. or that attending a conference is not excused instead of being at the meeting. Now, I have not known that, whether or not that's an existing policy. I certainly was never told that. I've read the ethics manual a lot of
Not
times.
an ethics policy.
And I guess what we've always done, when we plan on attending a conference, we leave after our board meeting. If the conference begins on the same day as our
Okay.
board meeting,
Or we don't go.
or we don't go.
Okay, but
Or
is
we go
that
the
fair?
next day.
But is that,
Or in an appropriate circumstance, the president could excuse the board member for.
Up to 3 times. 3 absences, three excused absences, and after that,
is that a written
doesn't count.
policy? Or is that, because President McIntosh, you said that's something that we've done. And so, but I never saw it in writing as a policy.
Well, I guess what we're saying, and I think Marguerite said it several times, is some of this is what we've been doing.
Okay.
and we're trying to codify,
So
we're
it's
trying to
trying to
codify,
codify.
So it's not written policy that I
we're
should have
trying
known
to
about.
codify existing
No.
practice that's worked well for us for decades.
Yeah.
So that a new
So
board
anyway.
doesn't
Okay,
have
but
to
that's-
create that practice out
Anyway.
of whole cloth.
This is, I don't think this is becoming fruitful. So, what do you need from us today, Clifford?
I think we have everything from the board. Director Chan is going to talk to Derek about her comments, and just given what we heard in the,
Can I actually, I would appreciate that, I mean, we had a certain amount of time to provide comments that were responded to by staff and incorporated into the policy. Director Chan, if we're not going to see those until we are affirming a policy, I'd like to hear what those changes are, because I wasn't able to be at the Finance Committee meeting to hear them, or maybe, I don't know if they were shared at the Finance Committee, but we all had until, the date to submit our comments so that they could be responded to, so
So that was
let's hear 'em.
today for me. So I just want to be clear that I was trying to do this in a way where people can actually get out of here.
Well, we're
I
here to
didn't-
do
I mean-
business, it's 2:00, we've been here for 45 minutes in our meeting, there's plenty of time.
Okay, so let's go through it. You want to go through it?
President Young,
Sorry, I'm sorry, I just,
I get your point.
So you want me to go through one by one, page
Hell
by
no.
page? Okay. No. All right.
I mean, this makes no sense. How many do you have? What are you talking about, April? Give us a general idea and not just pie in the sky.
I am not providing anything pie in the sky. What I
Well,
was
give us a
trying to.
general idea.
Okay, some of it is language, some of it is what I've spoken about before, some of it is
Was this
how.
supposed to be done before today?
Yes.
No, as a matter of fact, I announced at the last meeting that I would have my changes today, and so they are done today.
Were they shared with the committee this morning?
Some of it was, yes. So I thought what I did was share what I thought was really important to share with the fellow committee members and the rest, I thought this would be an efficient use of time for me to discuss this with general counsel. They're not big changes. As a matter of fact, I think Risha and I talked about some of the changes, and we said we would discuss it later, and you asked for changes. So that's what happened. I shared what I thought was really important to share. And I thought the rest of it is minor, and it would make no sense to go through every single little change here.
Marguerite, before you, Clifford, Derek, one of you, please chime in.
yeah, well, maybe I'll just quickly summarize. I mean, what Director Chan shared today, the major ones that she shared with us this morning was there are portions of the manual that she wanted to really emphasize certain sections of the MUD Act that she thought was important to clearly state within the manual that these are very important sections with respect to the board of directors and their duties and responsibilities, that she felt that we didn't call out certain sections clearly enough. It was just a reference to the MUD Act, but but important sections that she thought should be highlighted in the manual. And that's really, I think, the gist that she shared this morning. I hope I captured that correctly, Director Chan.
Okay. Highlight?
Yeah,
And-
I
and
mean,
so-
it was just basically the integration of some language, how to integrate some of the language from the MUD Act into the handbook. That's all,
And
but
what,
we should yell about it more.
And the
so.
committee didn't have any concerns with that. They just needed to be reviewed by staff to properly integrate into the.
All right, so the committee referred this to staff to
I think
integrate.
that sounds accurate, yeah.
and what I thought what we would do is Article 4 of the MUD Act discusses the powers and duties of directors. And so in addition to referencing Article 4, we would essentially summarize those powers and duties.
So, so why don't you do that? It just requires another step. If the full board wants to see what's being highlighted or what's being additional language added, I think, it's reasonable for the rest of the board to be able to see that before they sign off on it, right?
Yes. So what we would do is, assuming that today's red lines are acceptable, we would incorporate those, make further red lines based on the feedback we've received today that would show up in the next version for adoption.
All right. Is that okay, Marguerite?
Yeah, that's fine. What I would ask is that rather than going back to the finance committee, that it come to the full board at this point, because it's a full board's decision, it's the full board's deliberation. I would gently remind that our secretary asked us to respond by a given date, so that other board members would have the opportunity
On
to
numerous
review the
occasions,
changes that
yes.
were being suggested by the board members. And belonging to one of the committees that reviews those before the rest of the board gets to isn't an excuse for not following the secretary's request to submit the comments, period.
Well, no, I'm going to say that at the time the request was made, I made it very clear that I could not comply with that deadline and basically said that today would be the deadline. I would have everything ready. I said what I was going to do. Nobody said, hey, you have to submit it by this particular date or else. People agreed that I could submit the changes today.
Yeah, I think, yes, Bill.
Could you just
But
provide
I
them to
think
everybody?
we've
Could we
got
have them
this
provided to
resolved.
everybody?
I think so.
I think we've got it resolved.
Okay, I'd just like to see them
Exactly.
now versus when they're incorporated into the red line, if you have them.
I want to separate something, and I've been on the board 26 years. We abided by a policy over those 26 years that was governing. Now, going into my 27th year, we say we're going to do a manual. The manual doesn't change what we had before. It adds some things to it. It didn't mean you could blow the whole thing away and say all of a sudden we start brand new with a new set of rules. What it said, you could add to the rules, but I don't think it told us we could take away. For example, missing meetings, conference, travel, all those things were well-defined and abided by, and nobody seemed to have any problem with them. So
Director
I'm
Patterson,
saying they were established before I got on the board. They were here when I came,
so I didn't know that.
yeah.
I didn't know that because it wasn't in writing anywhere.
I
And so,
think the
so now
secretary
that,
said that.
now that you've said this has been the policy, it's been the spoken policy, I understand. But it wasn't in writing, so I didn't know.
Yeah, a lot of things haven't been in writing.
That's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
So maybe just to incorporate what I'm hearing, what we can do is, as Derek mentioned, we'll clean up the document with the feedback we had today. We'll just provide a red line copy of the comments we've received today and Director Chan's comments, and then we will send it out by Thursday of this week, just we have 2 weeks. So we'll send out Thursday of this week, so you'll be able to see it before the normal packet will get out. So you have an extra week to look at those comments. And then we're going to bring the final version, unless we hear some feedback from board members with any issues, on November 12th for adoption of the manual and the policies.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody?
It's fine.
All right. Okay.
Thank you for this discussion. That is the end of my reports, and at your places is the Speakers Bureau and Outreach Record.
All right. We will now move to reports and director comments. No, still, Risha, no comments from the public on.
No comments from the public.
All right. I'd like to make an announcement, or I can do it after. Are there any comments from,
Don't we have committee reports?
committee reports? Thank you, Marguerite. So finance, Andy, sustainability, Marguerite.
Thank you, Madam President. The Finance and Administration Committee met this morning to review and approve the acceptance of a number of financial reports, including the fiscal year 2024 Power Revenue Report, the Total Annual Budget and Performance Report, and the quarterly financial reports, and the Total Annual Budget and Performance Report. We also reviewed the annual internal audit report, and as well made a recommendation regarding the Comanche Mobile Home Park Rent stabilization proposal. Finally, we addressed the board governance manual, which we already considered.
Were there any speakers from the public on the mobile home park?
There were none. We did hear that staff had communicated briefly with the Tenants Association before presenting the item to us.
Okay, great. Marguerite?
The sustainability committee had one item, the greenhouse gas inventory report, annual report, which continued to show a steady decline in our emissions, and that we're on track to meet our 2030 goal of carbon neutrality. There was one public comment from Eric Larson requesting that we consider adding carpools to our transit stipend.
Okay. All right, nothing further? Thank you. All right, please submit items for future consideration to the general manager's office. Director comments, and thank you if you've already submitted your comments to the secretary's office. Are there any verbal director comments?
I do.
Bill, while you're hunting, we'll start with Marguerite.
I had my ward briefing last week right after, in the nice 70-degree weather. It was actually a little bit chilly, at San Pablo Reservoir, with about 30 people, including members of the public that we'd invited. And I just want to, it went quite well. Want to thank all the staff that helped make it possible, including our general manager, David Briggs, Mona Favorite-Hill, Joe Volker, Mike Tognolini, Serge, Michelle Workman gave great briefing on our fisheries work, and anybody else that I left off. Kelly's team. The only criticism is that we really need to work on making sure that our caterer follows our instructions about compostable materials, because we had plastic. But other than that, it was a great day. We got lots of compliments, especially from members of the public, about both the briefing and how we should share more of this out to the public, and I agree.
No wasps, huh?
No wasps. Well, there were a few, not many, not many.
That's why I didn't do it there again.
Oh. Well, I think next year we may move over to the watershed headquarters.
Okay,
It's a little closer to Orinda.
all right, thank you. Bill, did you?
Yeah. I have several things, and I hope I don't prolong.
Me too.
one of the things that I really wanted to say is that I've been attending a lot of community sessions. There's a lot of turmoil going on, and it's related to my ward, all of which is in Oakland. And so in attending these meetings, for me, it's like a listening session to hear what people are concerned about. And believe me, we've been getting that input. I always have gone by the principle, it's not what I want, it's what the people I serve want. And it's important for me to know that. So you're probably reading a lot of things in the paper or hearing on the radio conversations about this. It's also a presidential election, which blows it into another quarter. I'm not here to say what everybody should do, but at least when I report out, I'm trying to report out on what people in my ward are saying. Most of you know that I also serve on the advisory committee on environmental justice to the president. I'm on that associate committee. And so many of the things that I'm hearing are things that are on the national agenda, either already pushed forward, as we experienced with Upper San Leandro treatment plant, and some of the pluses that are coming out of that for us, because they kicked off infrastructure in Oakland. And whereas the body that reports directly to the president is trying to address structural environmental justice by having it precede the new money that's going into that sector. And that's how we got to the head of the line. Now, I want to say that's on the backs of the people that treatment plant serves, getting it in shape. It's the oldest one in the district. And it's why it was chosen, because it also served the poorest part of the district in Oakland. I just want to make sure I stress that. These are things that happen beyond our control. We didn't say this to them. They sought it out because they got communication from what was left over from the former president's non-doing. And that made it an element to go to the top on the Biden administration. Now we're going into another sector, and we have plans and things that are laid out. One of the things that I've said as a advisory person is that the federal administration and its budget should embrace the environmental justice issues as the now president stated, and carry that forward. Unfortunately, a lot of the people on whose backs that was all predicated, and this came out in the discussion, are no longer there. You know, they say they've left California, but if you go out to some of the cleanup areas and under the freeway, find a lot of people, they don't have an address or phone number. They're not located anywhere. They don't bring anything to our quarter. And one of the reasons why Oakland financially is in trouble is it hadn't kept up with those people. I think I'm the last one to do a recount after the 90 count, and we discovered, some 80 or 90,000 people who weren't counted, and the city got more revenue. Part of this revenue is drying up because the numbers are going down. That don't mean that they're not here, it just means that they're not counted. And so I want to make sure I bring you that information. I've been kind of quiet, but I'm getting out of here now, and I'll have a little more time if they keep me on. I don't know if they will or not, but I'll have a little more time to address the issue. And I bring that before you to say, we have to be in the mix of things because they're delivering service through us because we're organized. Several of the large water districts have plans similar to this that they can go through. And then by relieving some of the pressure, the special things that we do, our programs that we have to address some of the people who are next to homeless or almost pushed out, we're helping get back. But the additional monies that come can help them even more. And that's why I point that out to say, we're on a course that not only helps all of the people who are able to support themselves, pay their water bill, be part of our domain, and the people who are slipping out, who our special service program gets and brings back in, also learn the financial acumen thanks to our staff, and they become supporting members that, again, we work for. We occupy a very high place. We got all the awards to prove it. So we've been evaluated by somebody outside of us that gives us standing. And I always say, our staff is the greatest staff in the nation, in my opinion, for what we do and how we do it. And so I want to keep that on everybody's mind, that we've been a part of and associated with greatness. Anything that I set my hand to and I've been a part of in my lifetime, I always left better than I found it. And I always encourage those who came after me to do the same. Unfortunately, in some quarters, they let down. And in those quarters where they let down, they lost the game. But the platforms that I left behind, like the Oakland Zoo, the ones that I built they are and have funding that people in the public don't know about, is how they keep going. Children's Fairyland, all the things that made the city great. The city's losing because it's losing the dollars, it doesn't have the ability to keep it going. So as you go forward, you're gonna go up and down, and we've made the difference. And so I've been leading the charge with some of the public in Oakland to see if we can't get people back on the same page, do some of these things, ferret out some of these things to help the city move. And I'm just talking about my ward. I'm talking about Oakland and trying to help press it forward. Other cities have similar problems, and they have to address those on their own. But I want things that I've been associated with to grow and get back to where they used to be. Now, in my travel around My last travel last week was celebrating George Pardee. And I had an opportunity after the NAACP meeting and hearing in a listening session following that meeting in East Oakland of candidates who were running for city council in a kind of, not a debate, but a discussion, and hearing their answer to solving the problem. Again, a listening opportunity. And then I roared over to Pardee House. And most of you know Pardee House, know where it is. And it really was a celebration of George Pardee, who's the founder of EBMUD. He's the one that put us all together. And I want to compliment the general manager who's there and who told that history of George Pardee. You know, he was in the county staff in terms of working in the health department, and he went from that to a city council person, to mayor, and to work in the state, and to be governor. And he came home with EBMUD joining these many different water agencies that were all private and putting them together and getting the water from the McCullough River, building the largest dam in the world at that time. And that system has come down to us. When I was in the city, I had charge of many of the units that were the homes of these august people. And some of you know about the road that we have down here with the mansions that came out of Oakland. Pardee didn't move, it was always in the same place. In helping people there keep it in shape and build it back up, because it was falling apart when I came on the board. And I served 5 years, maybe 7, 8 years on their board, and we got it together. I was thankful that you came to the meeting, and Doug came with his wife, and we all shared that occasion, and they gave us an award, and I was very happy. I brought a copy of the program to be kept in the record, so all of you can look at or see this and see the program that took place, and relive some of the history. Remember, you gotta always know where you came from to know where you're going. And George set it out for us, and we followed in that path and have prevailed. I don't ever like to see anything go down that disparages our service or our staff. And so I'm going to end this with one other thing. I've never met one of the candidates that's running for my seat. And I'm going to see that I find him wherever he is, because when my booklet came out on Alameda County general election, his opening statement is an insult to EBMUD and our staff. He doesn't know the stringent requirements that we have on our water and inspection. He must not have been to our website to see all the things that we have located that's clearly defined. He couldn't have been here to see all the awards and things that you, the staff, have won. So it made me mad when I read his statement. And I've never met the gentleman, but I intend to. And I just want to report out, as an old guy, I've been getting around lately. And even though I have some discomfort, it's made me stronger because I stand with you. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Bill. All right, so are there any other verbal director comments or reports? All right, then I'd like to make just a brief announcement regarding Director Gomez's November absence. This is an odd situation due to the MUD Act's language that in a situation in which the board has made an appointment to fill a vacancy, the appointment is until the next general election. Director Gomez's term will end on November 5th. That's voting day, 2024, and she will not attend the November board meetings, neither of those meetings in November. If she is elected, as we know she will be, as the director for Ward 2 on November 5th, she will take office immediately upon certification of the election by the secretary of the district. And that takes a bit of time. So we will not see Luz during the month of November, but she'll be back pretty damn quickly.
I will miss everybody.
We'll miss you too.
I'll be around, not
Yeah.
what the day is.
So thank you for that. So if there's nothing further, the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors will be held on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 at 1:15 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned.